regions with the most oil resources, proven oil reserves. The world runs on oil, the modern world runs on numbers. Millions of barrels of oil move across the planet every single day. Ships cross oceans carrying goods between continents. Trucks travel thousands of kilometers delivering food and products. Airplanes connect cities and countries. Factories produce the things people use every day. Most of the time, people rarely think about the fuel behind all of this. Oil is invisible to most of us, quietly working in the background of modern life. But imagine something strange happens. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and the flow of oil suddenly slows down. Gas stations begin running out of fuel. Airlines cancel flights. Shipping companies stop moving containers across oceans. Factories slow their machines. At first, nothing seems different. Cities still look the same. Cars are still on the road. Stores are still open. But slowly, something begins to change. Fuel prices start rising. Transportation becomes more expensive. Food prices begin climbing. Within days, governments hold emergency meetings. News channels begin talking about supply shortages. Markets react. Because oil is not just another resource. It is the energy that powers the entire global economy. Nearly everything you touch today has been moved, built, or manufactured using oil somewhere along the way. The phone in your pocket, the food in your kitchen, the clothes you wear. All of it depends on a massive global system powered by energy. And here is something many people never realize. Oil is not evenly spread across the earth. Most of the world's oil is concentrated in just a few regions of the planet. A handful of places hold the majority of the energy that powers modern civilization, which means the location of these resources matters more than most people imagine. Because when you look at the map of oil, you begin to understand the map of global power, the alliances, the conflicts, the economic influence. All of it connects back to what lies underground. So if we want to understand how the modern world really works, we must begin with a simple question. Where is the oil, and which regions of the earth hold the most of it? The hidden geography of energy. Many people imagine oil as something scattered randomly across the planet. But the truth is very different. Oil is one of the most unevenly distributed resources on Earth. Entire continents contain relatively small amounts, while a few regions sit on enormous reserves. If you could see beneath the surface of the Earth, the pattern would surprise you. Most of the world's oil is concentrated in just a few locations, not dozens, not even 10, just a handful of regions. This hidden geography quietly shapes the global economy. It influences which countries become wealthy, which nations gain strategic power, and which economies must depend on others for energy. Because oil does more than power cars. It fuels trucks that transport food. It powers ships that move global trade. It runs airplanes connecting continents. And it drives the factories that produce modern goods. Without oil, the global system of movement and production slows down almost immediately. And this is where the imbalance becomes important. Some countries sit directly on top of enormous oil reserves. Others have almost none. To understand this imbalance, experts measure something called proven oil reserves. Proven reserves are the amount of oil that scientists and engineers know exists underground and can be extracted with current technology. In other words, oil that can realistically be pumped from the ground. When researchers map these reserves across the world, one pattern becomes very clear. Nearly half of the planet's proven oil reserves are concentrated in a single region. Large portions of the remaining oil are clustered in just a few additional places. This means the global energy system depends heavily on specific parts of the world. If something disrupts production in one of these regions, the effects spread quickly. Fuel prices rise, markets react, supply chains begin to strain. A distant geographic event suddenly becomes a global economic shock. Because the map of oil is not just a map of resources, it is a map of influence, a map of dependency, and in many ways a map of power. Number 1, the Middle East. The energy core of the planet. If you look at the global map of oil, one region stands out immediately. The Middle East, a relatively small area of land that holds one of the most powerful concentrations of energy resources on Earth. Beneath its deserts lies nearly half of the world's proven oil reserves. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates sit on some of the largest oil fields ever discovered. These are not small deposits. Some oil fields are so large that they have been producing oil continuously for decades while still containing enormous reserves. One famous example is the Ghawar oil field in Saudi Arabia. It is the largest conventional oil field on Earth. For years, it has produced millions of barrels of oil every single day. This is why the Middle East became the center of global energy politics. When the world runs on oil, the regions that control the oil hold enormous influence. Throughout modern history, events in this region have repeatedly shaken global markets. A conflict, a political crisis, a disruption in supply. Within hours, oil prices can surge across the world. When oil prices rise, transportation becomes more expensive. Shipping costs increase. Factories pay more for energy. Eventually, those costs reach everyday people. Fuel prices rise. Food becomes more expensive. Entire economies feel the pressure. This is the hidden power of oil geography. The Middle East does not just produce energy, it shapes the stability of the global economy. Over time, oil wealth transformed several countries in the region. Desert landscapes became major economic centers. Cities expanded. Infrastructure developed. Entire industries grew around energy production. But this concentration of resources also brought global attention. Because when one region holds such a large share of the world's energy supply, the entire planet becomes deeply connected to its stability. Energy markets watch every development closely. Governments build alliances. Companies invest billions. And global markets react to even small signals coming from the region. In many ways, the Middle East became the beating heart of the global oil system. Number 2, South and Central America. The giant beneath the surface, another region with enormous oil resources, lies in South and Central America. At the center of this story is Venezuela. Beneath its surface lies the Orinoco Belt, one of the largest oil deposits ever discovered. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves in the world. The scale of these resources is extraordinary. If produced efficiently, they could supply global markets for decades. But there is a challenge. Much of the oil in the Orinoco Belt is heavy crude. This type of oil is thick and difficult to extract. It requires more complex and expensive processes. Because of this, Venezuela's production has often struggled to reach its full potential. Economic challenges, infrastructure limitations, and political instability have all played a role. This creates one of the most striking contradictions in the energy world. A country with the largest oil reserves on Earth, yet unable to fully benefit from them. Brazil also plays an important role in the region. Off its coastline lie massive offshore oil fields known as pre-salt reserves. These deposits sit thousands of meters beneath the ocean floor and beneath thick layers of rock and salt. Extracting oil from these depths requires advanced technology and enormous investment. But once production began, Brazil quickly became one of the fastest-growing oil producers in the world. Together, Venezuela's massive reserves and Brazil's offshore discoveries have turned South and Central America into one of the most resource-rich oil regions on the planet. Number 3, North America. Technology unlocks the oil for many years. Experts believed North America had already used most of its oil. Large fields in the United States had been discovered over a century ago. By the early 2000s, many analysts believed production would continue declining. But something unexpected happened. Technology changed the equation. Beneath North America, vast oil resources had always existed. They were simply trapped in rock formations that traditional drilling could not access. Then, engineers developed new techniques such as horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing. These methods allowed companies to break open rock formations and release trapped oil. This led to what became known as the shale revolution. Oil production surged in places like the Permian Basin in Texas and the Bakken Formation in North Dakota. Within a few years, the United States became the largest oil producer in the world. Canada also holds enormous oil resources. Beneath the forests of Alberta lie the Canadian oil sands. These deposits contain thick oil mixed with sand and clay. Extracting it is complex and expensive, but the reserves are enormous. Together, these developments transformed North America into one of the most powerful energy regions in the world. The lesson was clear. Oil is not only about geology, it is also about technology. Number 4, Africa. The untapped potential. Africa holds significant oil resources, particularly in the northern deserts and along the western coastline. Countries such as Libya, Nigeria, Angola, and Algeria contain major oil reserves. Libya holds some of the largest reserves on the continent. Nigeria has long been one of Africa's major oil exporters. Angola and Algeria also play important roles in global supply. But Africa's oil story is still developing. Many oil fields remain unexplored. Some regions lack infrastructure needed to transport oil efficiently. Political instability and economic challenges have slowed investment in some areas. Because of this, much of Africa's energy potential remains underground. Geologists believe additional discoveries may still be waiting beneath the continent's soil and offshore waters. If these resources are developed successfully, Africa could become one of the most important energy regions in the future. Number 5. Asia-Pacific. High demand, limited resources. The Asia-Pacific region contains some of the largest economies and populations on Earth. China, India, Japan, South Korea. These countries consume enormous amounts of energy. Factories operate constantly. Cities grow rapidly. Transportation networks expand. But beneath the ground, oil reserves are limited. The region holds only a small percentage of the world's proven oil resources. As a result, many Asian countries depend heavily on imported oil. Tankers travel thousands of miles across oceans to supply the region. One of the most critical routes for this supply is the Strait of Malacca. Every day, massive volumes of oil pass through this narrow waterway. If this route were disrupted, the impact would ripple across the global economy. Energy prices would surge. Industries would slow. Supply chains would feel the shock, because for this region, oil is not only about energy, it is about economic stability. The global power map. For many people, oil is simply fuel for vehicles. But on the global stage, oil represents power. Countries that control large oil reserves gain influence. They affect markets. They shape energy prices. They influence global economic stability, because oil powers transportation, trade, and industry. When oil supply rises or falls in one region, the consequences spread across the entire planet. Transportation costs change. Shipping prices rise, industries adjust, and ordinary people feel the impact. At gas stations, at grocery stores, across the cost of daily life, because oil is not just a resource. It is part of the system that keeps the modern world moving. The future of oil. For more than a century, oil has powered modern civilization. Today, renewable energy is growing. Solar panels and wind turbines are expanding. Electric vehicles are increasing. But the transition away from oil is slow, because the global economy was built around fossil fuels. Cargo ships still burn large amounts of fuel. Airplanes still rely on energy-dense fuels. Heavy industries still depend on oil and gas. This means oil will remain important for decades to come. The regions that hold the largest reserves will continue to influence global energy markets. Technology may evolve. Energy systems may change. But for now, oil remains deeply embedded in the structure of the global economy, because beneath the earth lies a resource that has shaped the modern world. Oil, and the places where it exists, will continue to influence the direction of global power for years to come.